Hello, this is Alan G. Davison, and these are kind of pet peeves that I've actually come across. Before I actually started writing and stuff, I didn't really get bothered too much by other, reading and stuff like that. I just read for the entertainment of it, read because it was school related and stuff like that. But after actually writing, I've actually sort of found myself in a situation where I find my pet peeves. Just, pet peeves as an author that when I see other authors kind of doing them, it just kind of bothers me the wrong way. And here's one I came across while reading a book of a neighbor of mine whose niece actually wrote one. And I sort of started, it was a romance novel, and it had an interesting premise. I will not deny this. It was a very, very good premise. I'm not really able to remember the whole thing. I think it was Dragon Prince or something like that. It was an interesting premise, and as I sort of read it, though, I got like so far into it, and there was like no dialogue whatsoever. And as a person who like loves characters and characters bouncing off each other and stuff like that, that was a bit of a pet peeve for me. But I think that wasn't really what stopped me to put the book down. And it wasn't because it's a romance novel. I may be a guy, but I actually am a big fan of romance stories, and I just don't think I can write them worth shit, to be honest. Some key differences that I'm actually a fan of the My Little Pony series, and I'm more of a fan of the fandom itself than the show itself. I think it's a really good show, but the fandom is just so much full of so much creative energy. But getting off topic. But anyway, thanks to that show, though, I've in the fandom itself, I've read a lot of romance stories and shipping stories, and I find them very entertaining and very interesting if they are done right. However, this story did something that I didn't really care for, is that they gave so much information out at one time. And it wasn't so much the lack of dialogue. Like I said, I like characters and stuff, but the lack of dialogue was sort of an influence on it in that they gave way too much away. It was a really good premise. It was sort of a Beauty and the Beast-esque story, only it was about a dragon and stuff. Which, I like dragons. Dragons are freaking cool. And I actually started like reading it and stuff, and then I was reading, 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 next page, reading, and then I got to the sort of dialogue, and I was kind of like, I already know what's going to happen, and I just sort of closed the book. I lost interest so quickly because she told me everything that I needed to know, and it's kind of like, if you're going to enter a concept of transformation or of mystery or something like that, and you explain every little detail, it no longer becomes interesting. And I can understand why she was doing it. Now that I'm really thinking about it, I can understand why she was doing it is because it's a Beauty and the Beast-esque story. She wanted to differentiate her story from Beauty and the Beast. However, in doing so, she put way too much detail down. Is that a lot of my stories, I'm going to go back to my stories, I like to keep the audience in some sort of the dark, where they can let their mind wander and their imagination roam and stuff like that. It's kind of why I don't like to put a whole lot of details in my background, because you'd be surprised how much your imagination can do for you in reading a story. If everything's sort of just there for you, you've got to make it interesting to look at, and I'm just not that good at direct, details. I can give you a good story, I can give you good characters, but, background and details, not so good at. Anyway, is that she gave way too much information way too quickly, and that is a very, very, very bad thing to do. And other opposite ends of the spectrum is probably giving too little information, and then, of course, nobody's really friggin' interesting, and then they close the book because they don't really care. Another subject altogether, but like I said, gotta find a balance and an equilibrium between. I don't think I've ever actually said that now that I think about it. Forget the before I said that. Just forget it. I'm not editing it out. I'm really not very good with editing stuff. Stop. Back to the subject at hand. But it was a good story. I liked all of the information, but once all of that information came out and I got to the characters, and the characters felt so flat and so dull, and I just could see it coming. I could see that this heroine would have some sort of influence. She would somehow stumble into this castle and she would influence this prince. And I really wish that it was a good story, but she could have done it in a different way. If you're going to write a story, any type of story, don't tell us, show us. Alright? She explained the prince. She basically did that. She just explained the prince. She explained why he was great. She explained why he was a prince. She explained why he was loved by everybody. Explained, when instead they could have showed it. They could have had him talk to the person he was sparring against, could have talked to other people, could have talked to the people around him, could have showed it through his actions, whether he helped someone up that he accidentally knocked over, whether he held the door open for a woman or something like that. Show us what makes an individual great, not just explaining it. And that was my problem, is that she explained everything. And once I knew everything, I felt no interest to continue the story. I mean, it could have had the greatest thing in the entire world. It could have had the greatest twist in the entire world. But she explained everything too much, too fast, and too quickly. And if there's one thing I myself, as a reader and as a writer, I enjoy finding things out as I go. I don't like it when people just sort of give me a platter, give me all the information, and say, okay, open your mouth, I'm going to spoon feed it to you. It makes me feel like an idiot. And if there's one thing I don't like, it's being feel like an idiot. I do a damn good enough job making an idiot out of myself. I don't need your help. Thank you very much. Anyway, that was the whole thing, though, is that it wasn't because it was a romance story, and it wasn't because it was something that I don't know how to write. It was the fact that she explained way too much. And if I'm going to hammer this into anybody's head, it's going to be the people who listen to me. Damn it, I'm preaching, so listen up. Hallelujah. I'm going off topic again. And I wonder why I have so few views. Anyway, as I said before, whether it's fan fiction, whether you're doing a comic book, if you tell everyone everything, then nobody's going to want to read it. And, now that I'm kind of on the subject, saying too little can be just as problematic. I'm going to take, for example, my fiance. She's writing a fan fiction about Doctor Who. She's really recently got into Doctor Who, partially because it's my fault, and partially because, another story, another time. As that I'm reading through this and stuff like that, is that she just jumps around so much. And I find it difficult when that happens. And it's something you see in fan fictions a lot. It's very rare that you actually see fan fiction where they actually explain too much. They're out there, I bet. I haven't actually spent enough time on fanfiction.net in order to go through and say, okay, this person explained it. Off topic, getting back at hand. Is that it happens when I'm reading it and stuff like that, and I'm kind of like, you're doing all these amazing things. You've got the Master showing up. You've got Rose accidentally looking into the time vortex and stuff like that. You've got Kevorkian, that one chick from the most recent season of Doctor Who abducted Amy Pond. You've got all these characters appearing in one chapter, and it's only 3 chapters long. And I'm kind of having a difficult time explaining to her, and I'm not wanting to hurt her feelings. I really don't. I love her to death, and I couldn't imagine the world without her. But I'm literally just looking at her, and I'm like, any one of these events would at least have their own chapter. I mean, they could probably have 3 or 4. I mean, you could probably center an entire story around these concepts. But you've literally only got them for 3 areas, and it's like, no, you're not telling me enough. You're not really adding a whole lot into the actual story itself. And the great way to actually flesh that out is, what would the Doctor do in this situation? Would he really would he just stop and head back to the No, he wouldn't do that. He would chase after the Master. He would save Rose. He would escape that one crazy woman with the eye patch who's trying to abduct babies so she can try to kill the Doctor, even though that's, technically speaking, wouldn't actually be possible, considering he's gone farther into the future than anyone has any right to be. Off topic again. I really do need to stop that. I think I should have an electric buzzer or something like that, and I just doing it again. Oh my god, I'm an idiot. Anyway, like I said, that can be just as problematic, in that I think any storyteller, not just a fan fiction writer, should always try to find that nice little equilibrium between explaining too much and explaining too little. You explain too much, you tell everyone everything that's going on, and they become disinterested. If you don't explain enough, then you're literally just putting the plot summaries onto your page, and who really wants to read that? I mean, who wants to watch that? I mean, who wants to see that? It just doesn't work that way. And the thing is that you do need to find a balance. And like all things in life, you need to find a balance. And I'm just hammering things over and over again, so I think I'm going to wrap this up, and you guys can listen to me ramble on some more maybe next time. Ciao.